to the How Races One podcast from Escape Collective. I'm Dane Cash. I'm here with bike racing analyst extraordinaire Cosmo Catalano. Cosmo, week 2 of the Tour de France. We're more than halfway through now. What's our headline so far? Wait, actually, you know what? How are you, Cosmo Catalano? Wait, let's first check in.
I'm well, Dane. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank you for
Great.
checking in.
What's the headline so far of the Tour de France?
This is what a hangover from 1 week of one-day races looks like.
Yeah,
that's kind of my feedback.
Today's stage. We're recording after stage 14. We just saw the end of stage 14. In particular, people were cooked.
And at parts of the race where it wasn't hard yet, right? People were just like, nope, not doing bikes today. Well,
it was the third straight GC day. Three GC days, 3 hard days in the Pyrenees. The time trial in between them was a hill climb, a mountain climb even. So no rest for anyone pretty much. The big story for me today, Tadej Pogačar did not win. And he even said after the race he was trying to win. He and his team went out hoping to win this stage. They didn't do it. So
you said it before the race too. Like this is
yeah. And based on what we've seen the past 2 days, which we'll get to in about 10 seconds, I would have thought he was going to win. I would have thought he was going to catch Thymen Arensman. And especially with the concerted effort that he and his team made, didn't happen. Pogačar washed? Probably not. Hodakam, let's talk stage 12. How do we get where we are today?
There was the Visma rode really hard at the front of the race. I think, like we said in the previous podcast, they really need to try and find that day where Pogačar is not ready. He's not up to his game. They lined it out pretty absurdly early. Then they came down to the descent to Hodakam, and there were not a whole lot of Visma guys left and a lot of UAE guys left. Jonathan Narvaez cranked it up, I think, even harder than Pogačar was thinking it would happen, around 13K to go. And then just inside 12, Pogačar took off, and it very much the Pogačar we have seen all through the year, just, so incomprehensibly more power than any other rider on the road. Pretty much it immediately gapped Vingegaard and continued to extend his advantage kind of all the way up the remaining 12 kilometers to the top of Hodakam.
Yeah. And in the end, a big gap for Pogačar. He extended it again to the TT. We'll talk about that in a bit. So today, stage 14, Pogačar comes in with a big lead, coming in high on confidence probably. Going for that third straight stage win. It didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? And maybe show us in perhaps with some video assistance how this didn't happen. There we go. We're working on. There we go.
So we have guys dropping off really early. Here's Remco. He was handed off this bottle just before abandoning the race, but UAE was in control, but they weren't really dominating. This is a pretty big peloton here. It's 3 wide. Nils Pollitt, very strong rider, not known as a climber. He's pretty tall. And so it was just a day where the normal pacing of things was throwing people out the back. You had a lot of activity up front. The big moment came at 36K to go. Thymen Arensman attacks out of the break. And you can see the gap to the Maillot Jaune here, to the GC group, is only 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So at this point, I think we have every expectation that Pogačar is going to win the stage. That's a tiny gap, a long way to go. And Arensman rode a very powerful, very disciplined race. You can see this is there's a screenshot here of a very small GC group lined out behind UAE, and the gap is 3 minutes and 36 seconds now. So this is after the descent. They're coming into the final climb to Super Bannière, and UAE is looking like they're still trying to rip this gap down. And they got 30 seconds out of it, and then Marc Soler pulls off. You can see there's another screenshot here. He's kind of moved off to the side of the road. And then they just kind of stopped going fast. The gap is now at 2:51 and stayed there for the rest of the 4 or 5 kilometers. What's really interesting is UAE still had Adam Yates in the group with Pogačar and didn't really use him. After Jonathan Narvaez pulled off, it almost seemed like he was holding Yates in reserve. Finally got him out around 7K to go. And again, the gap only about 2:42, not huge. Finally, Vingegaard attacks at 4K to go, and couldn't really get separation. The most interesting thing I thought was as Felix Gall, who'd gone up the road, is about to get caught, You've got your typical Vinigo leading, Pogacar following. And as they get close to Gaul, what happens is Vinigo looks over his shoulder and it's like, maybe Pogacar, you can take a turn now. And Pogacar pauses a moment and then makes an attack. And what I think he is worried about is not Vinigo, but what he's coming up on. If you look, there's an image I have up on the screen, close up of Gaul. You can see Pogacar in the background. On either side, you have spectators very close to the riders.
Yep.
Like there isn't that same gap you get with the GC group and more motos. There is still a moto here, so I don't know how they got so close. Maybe it was the giant inflatable tricolor French chickens, I guess roosters that the fans are wearing. But either way, Pogacar picked this moment this is where he was going to invest energy, get there. He got up to Gaul's wheel and immediately kind of slides off like, okay, cool. I've done what I need to do.
Mission accomplished.
The risk is, he even takes a look over his shoulder and it's like, Vinigo, you want to start pulling again? And we go back to the same pattern. Vinigo trying to attack, Pogacar following him pretty easily. The crowd's again, not infringing so closely. And I think that was really the only point where Vinigo had a real pinch moment to take it, and Pogacar was there. He was waiting for it. He stayed on the wheel. Vinigo was chirping at him the whole final kilometer, practically looking over his shoulder and yapping. And then Pogacar just sprinted the final 200 meters, got himself 4 seconds of a time gap in addition to the bonus seconds. So on the whole, pretty good day for Pogacar. Vinigo certainly looks strong, and I kind of wonder if Visma hadn't used up their try to knock Pogacar out on stage 12, if they might have been able to actually get some time here.
Yeah, it was interesting today. Really, really hard to read, I think, what Pogacar's situation was. Whether he was easily responding to Vingegaard's attacks, whether he was on the limit. The fact that he came into this stage having won 2 stages in a row, particularly the first one, Hautacam, we said was a handy win by a lot. He won the TT not by quite as much as maybe I actually expected Vingegaard to do worse. But still, Pogacar comes in riding high. I feel like, as you point out, even midway through the stage, looks like he might win the stage. The fact that he didn't come all that close, that suggests, okay, maybe he kind of was on the limit. Maybe he and his team went as hard as they could go, and there's a chance, like, is it possible that Vingegaard actually, if he'd been, a couple percent better, that he might have actually been able to gain time? I just don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that.
I kind of think because it was so abrupt, that moment where Soler pulls off, Narvaez took over, but it wasn't the same Narvaez we saw on stage 12. Didn't have that like just aggression and fire. And it really seemed like they're kind of like, all right, well, look, we got Yates left. He's pretty good. Narvaez isn't top of his game. That's all we have here. Yeah, Vingegaard's isolated, but everybody is really beat up. Maybe we just kind of take it easy and grab the time where we know we can grab it at the end of the stage versus trying to bring this back and win it today.
Well, we're talking about a lot about UAE, and it's sort of interesting. I think it's a big storyline of the week. Going into this week, there was chatter about Visma having the stronger team. I mean, the UAE's got that strong leader of theirs, Tadej Pogacar, but man, Visma's team is really good. And then on stage 12, going up the Hautacam, like actually even before it, suddenly Visma's vaunted team strength was not there. Matteo Jorgensen was, I think, the biggest loss of that stage, and continues to no longer factor in the GC. But yeah, it certainly seemed like they came into this week looking like they had a really great team, and then they just fell apart entirely on the Hautacam. Not that it would have mattered. I mean,
did they fall apart or did they take a shot and miss? Like there's in the Gavin Cafe Rider in the comments here is like, this was a Hail Mary from Visma Lisa Bike, and it's it didn't work out for him. Sometimes you throw the ball at second and 3 for the end zone and it gets intercepted, and it's sort of what happened.
I know. I think that's true. But I also think, and Grisha Nierman said this as well, that Jorgensen in particular, they did not expect to get dropped that early on the day. They expected Jorgensen to be there. They expected a much better day out of him. For Sepp Kuss or anyone else to go all in and then drop off is one thing, but Jorgensen had been there in the top 10 conversation and had been a potential card to play for them. They had talked about that actually having been a part of the strategy, the fact that Jorgensen was up there, and then he suddenly was not. And I think that is a bit of a surprise. And I was going to say that hurts Vingegaard, that hurts Visma a lot, but at the end of the day, would it have mattered? I don't think so. Pogacar was that much better than everyone else on that climb.
Well,
yeah.
There's mattered and there's mattered, right? Like Pogacar could win that climb, but maybe he wins it by a minute 30 instead of 2:10. Like I think there's really the Pogacar we're dealing with here. There's degrees of making a difference, right?
Yeah.
And it's, again, it's everything. Everything comes down to Pogačar having something go wrong to win this race. From everything we've seen, like, you aren't going to outplay him here. You really need something to go terribly wrong for him, and then for you to be in a position to take advantage of that. And I think, in a way that's still sportsmanlike. We saw that earlier in the race. People are not so tired of him that they are willing to do whatever it takes to gain time. There was a very concerted effort to not take advantage of his mechanical on stage 9, 10, 11.
I actually really liked that. I actually tend not to. I'm not a huge fan of waiting, but
I hate waiting.
In this instance, I think it's actually kind of a tactical play. Like, they weren't going to gain much time on Pogačar that day by not waiting. I don't think there was much time to be gained. What they did do is, maybe cooled the temperature a little bit, showed some respect in a way that, somewhat cynically from me, I think it's a win-win for them. It makes them look better, and I don't think they're going to win much time anyway. So I'm fine with their waiting there. After I thought about it a little bit, yeah. Today, though, again on stage 14, we saw Jorgensen drop off again. He did a good TT. Actually, it was after his bad day. He did a good TT. So maybe the form actually is okay, but he's changing goals a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was an interview that was on the world feed where he said the plan is for me to lose time today. I think they're really kind of reanalyzing their approach to the tour and looking more for stage wins. I think we saw that today where they had Simon Yates and Sepp Kuss in the break, and neither of them rode poorly. Like, I think Kuss was really looking to get out and get in a group with top climbers and see if he could ride to the line to maybe contest for the stage, and it just didn't work out. But it really feels more like they know Vingegaard is good for second, kind of regardless. And they know they're probably not going to get, having 4 guys around Vingegaard. As I say it, maybe, I don't know, a day like today where Pogačar didn't quite seem like Pogačar.
Right.
If they had 4 guys around him, maybe, but like, you don't know till you get there.
Right.
And after stage 12, I think it really is what's better for Visma, second place with Vingegaard and a bunch of stage wins, because they already have one, or second place with Vingegaard and no stage wins because we tried to make him beat Pogačar, even though that's really unlikely.
Well, we should point out, I mean, there's some really hard days coming. Like this, even stage 14, which was extremely hard, and the headline of our show is how hard it is. Even then, I don't think it's going to be the hardest day of the tour. I mean, in terms of the profile, there are harder days coming.
I mean, today I think was hard just because they've been racing like animals the entire. There has been
almost for the whole tour.
Yeah, there's been almost no let up, no break. It's like 20 minutes. I feel like tomorrow the gun is going to go. Like 40 people are going to go up the road, and no one else is going to pedal the bike for 45 minutes.
Yeah. I think it could cool down a little bit in the next few days, but then we're going to get these stretches of really hard stages, and it is interesting that maybe what we saw today, in relative terms, because Pogačar has shown so little weakness in the last 2 years. In relative terms, today did make you wonder, wait, okay, could maybe Vingegaard So, and that then says, okay, maybe Jorgensen should actually go back into GC support mode. But it would be cool to see him take a stage win. So I can kind of understand either side of the equation here from Visma. And I as we've been saying, I understand. I think their tactics were fine on the first 2 weeks of this race. They were throwing a Hail Mary against a rider who was probably just better, and it didn't work. But what else was going to work?
It's kind of where I am on it. Like, it looks silly. I think it was easy to make fun of, but at the same time, like, you don't know that Jorgensen's going to be off. You don't know that Pogačar is going to be on. You don't know that Narvaez is going to just ape it the second he gets to the front. Yeah. And
he's been, Narvaez, we should talk about in particular. He has been spectacular. Just working, when he was on the Hattacam, like, his pull pretty much dropped everybody before Pogačar even went.
Pogačar was like, I almost have to go now because that was such an absurd pull.
Yeah,
like, what would we be doing if I threw that to waste?
Yeah, and I think Narvaez has been a huge signing for this team. They've done a lot with him, and very, very impressive. And it's just sort of a funny reversal of well, first of all, reversal from a week ago where we were talking about how good Visma was, and now we're talking about how good UAE is again, even though they're down the rider that looked like their best non-Pogačar rider coming into the Tour. Joao Almeida's gone, but Narvaez has really stepped up. Wellens has stepped up, And suddenly Pogacar, if there was going to be anything that was going to derail Pogacar's attempts to defend his GC lead, well, now that team is quite strong around him, and not nearly as weakened as we thought. And then more generally, yeah, as Scott points out, switching of roles, and it's funny when the time trial yesterday, Joe Lindsay pointed out how much this was just a reversal of the Combloux time trial was that 23 maybe when Vingegaard beat Pogacar. Pogacar was way ahead of the whole field, and it was like, wow, Pogacar's so much better than everyone, and yet Vingegaard is a lot better than he is. Mm-hmm. Now we're in a reverse situation where in that time trial you saw how much better than Vingegaard was than the whole field. He passed Remco Evenepoel, who I don't think we've said this yet, is no longer in the race.
It wasn't peak Remco.
It was not peak Remco. Yeah. And then Vingegaard still beat him, Pogacar still beat him pretty handily. Evenepoel out. That's a huge shame for the race. Huge shame for Evenepoel. Interestingly enough, Evenepoel's departure shines even a brighter light on a Red Bull rider. And by the way, there's a lot of chatter about him possibly going to Red Bull.
Did we notice that the child who got the Remco bottle is wearing a Bora Red
He's
Bull
ready for that
kit?
But will they sign Remco Evenepoel if they have a Tour de France podium placer of his own in Florian Lipovitz, who after stage 14 looks really good to finish on the Tour de France podium, and just in general has looked really, really good at this race. I mean, like, he's been, third, fourth, fifth the last 3 days? I'm just pulling this up, the stats. And he's good against the clock. He's good on the climbs. He's only 24. I mean, I know that sounds old in this day and age, but
I would much rather see him battling with Remco for white. I thought that could have been a really good battle. But he's looked, and he's coming off the Giro too. Like both him and Onley are like this whole thing of like the never racing the Giro and the Tour. Like, it's an amazing thing if you do well at both the Tour and the Giro.
Roglic is.
He didn't finish the Giro.
That's true. But Roglic is actually coming off this year's Giro, whereas Lipowitz was last year's Vuelta and Giro. By the way, Roglic, I've been much happier. I've been happy with the way he's been racing. I want to see him do well, and I feel like the first week he was really not impressing, but he was really great on the time trial. So clearly the form is there. You can't fake that. So anyway, Oscar Onley though is your other podium contender here, and 22 years old, shining bright light for Scottish cycling fans. Been a little while since we've had a really great contender for Scotland, so that's going to be a good battle to watch.
He was not at the Giro. That's Max Poole.
Max Poole was at exactly. But Onley is, I think, I would favor Lipowitz to take this final podium spot here, but it's going to be close. It's going to be a good battle, and it's nice that we have that battle. Nice we have a white jersey battle for the first time since. I mean, not that we didn't have good white jersey contenders, but they were also the yellow jersey wearers for quite some time. And then when Remco took it last year, it was like there was zero surprise. So that's a good thing that we've gotten out of this week, where the race has really gone from being intriguing to suddenly be looking like pretty close to a foregone conclusion. For context's sake, we've got a 4-minute, 13-second gap from Pogacar to Vingegaard, 7-minute, 53-second gap down to Lipowitz, who is now in third today after Remco pulled out of the race. So, pretty distinct advantage there for Pogacar, and from Vingegaard to third, by the way. We should also mention that the other classifications are kind of interesting now, too. The green jersey battle is suddenly kind of cool, and it looked like for a little while it was just going to be Milan. I kept writing in various stories and saying on various podcasts that really Van der Poel should be going for this. His team said over and over again they weren't. And then well, I guess it was 2 days ago, he was in the breakaway and he got maximum intermediate points, and he suddenly cares about it again.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, the guy who has now won, what's Pogacar on after yesterday? He's on 21 tour stages. He's also a candidate for green. So this is a great battle, and we're gonna get. I mean, this battle happens every day. Whereas, like, sometimes the GC battle is not interesting every day. The green jersey battle is, and I don't know. Are you? Do you have a favorite here? Are you?
You know, it's kind of one of the more open-ended battles. I still like
Yeah.
Milan. I think he's got the team support. I think
slightly
Merlier
Milan too. Yeah.
Merlier needs those conditions, needs those classics-like conditions.
Well, true.
Which, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll keep racing like that.
Yeah, I think Merlier's pretty much. I think it's just Milan, Vanderpool, and Pogacar at this point, and it's just like they're all going to be taking points in different ways. Yeah, I know Kaylee has talked about this on podcast before. I would actually much prefer to see Pogacar contending for green. I mean, I know it's kind of boring when one guy takes everything, but he deserves it. You don't have to coddle the sprinters.
I mean, you should probably reset how the sprints are done.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm happy to go back to that before they made that rule change. But yeah, it looks like I think Milan is still a bit of a favorite, but it's going to be a great battle, much like the podium battle. Anyone stand out to you as worthy of heralding here this second week that we haven't heralded already?
I mean, Paulett's been riding really well. We kind of heralded him earlier. Vauquelin is doing really good. This is sort of where you would expect him to fall apart completely, and he has fallen apart very little with minimal kind of team support, and probably not prepared to come into this as a GC rider. Maybe he did. I don't know.
That's a really good way of putting it. You expect him to fall apart completely, and he hasn't. He wasn't great, but he hasn't fallen apart completely.
He's losing time, but he's losing time to guys who were expected to be up in the top 10. So.
Right. Yeah. And it's not that Vauquelin's not a great rider already. We've known that. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. We've talked about him a fair bit on the show, actually. It's that we didn't really expect him to be a GC guy at the Tour de France. And same is true, by the way, of Ben Healy, who, I mean, he deserves all the credit he's getting for having taken the yellow jersey in spectacular Ben Healy fashion. But he's sitting 9th overall as of today at the Tour de France, and he finished 7th.
Yeah, he's riding in the GC group.
Which is like, now that's something I would not have expected at all. And then, like, is EF in the running here for a top 10 that was completely unexpected from me? I don't know. On the other hand, it does mean he probably won't have as much leeway getting into breakaways, which is a bit of a drag.
He's got 18 minutes, right? Like,
that's true. Yeah,
there are enough.
Care about that. Yeah.
There are enough teams in front of him too. Like, he's got, it's 6 minutes to Johannesson, and it's not. I think there's still room for him to do Ben Healy things. He'll get a slightly shorter leash maybe.
Jonathan Narvaez is sitting 14th overall right now, which is wild. I don't think he's ever been in the top 20 of a Grand Tour, and just every day he's just at the front hammering away and then pulls off. But I guess he's still, it's just a testament to how good he has been. Scott Jaworski's Johannesson should be heralded. Yeah, all right, let's herald him. Again, another rider who, for many reasons, like, deserves some heralding. First of all, his ride on, what stage was it? I mean, was it stage 12? Yeah, the finishing 4th on the Autocam, like ahead of Roglic, ahead of Oscar Onley, Vauquelin. Like, that is really, really impressive, and someone that I personally was really not expecting to be up there doing that kind of thing. And yeah, after 14 days, he's at what? He's at 8th overall. In a real and well ahead of Healy, so his 10th GC top 10 looks pretty solid. What about the other end of the equation? Anyone? I feel like Remco's the obvious answer, but the guy looks like he's struggling. So
yeah, I was really nervous about him saying earlier in the season he was like he felt his weight was in a good place, and I'm like, dude, you are not heavy to begin with. Why are you counting grams now? You rode great last year at whatever weight you were at. Maybe shoot for that again. I get super nervous when, as somebody who tends to carry a little extra weight. I understand that when you lose the weight, you feel very good on the bike, but at a certain point, like it's not going to work out well.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. We have not seen as of press time here. We haven't seen much of an explanation from Soudal as to what's going on. Who knows if they even have one? But if there is a reason, if there's some kind of something's up, we haven't heard it yet. So yeah, but it's a shame to lose him. And he's the obvious one of underperforming, but also it's just sort of a bummer. So I don't want to focus too heavily on it.
Yeah,
but Ted Jorgensen, the other one.
He's been pretty sanguine about it, though. He's like, I don't know what wrong. I'm not where I need to be, but we're gonna make it work, which is commendable, I think.
Yeah, he and Kus are both. They both make for pretty good interviews. Like Jorgensen is very straightforward. Like when he's not doing well, he'll tell you. And then Kus, I noticed the other day, it was stage 12. I think it was stage 12. Yeah, the other day when Visma had a horrible day, he gave a several-minute interview, despite the team having a horrible. And not just horrible day from each of their riders not doing well, but just like overall in terms of the race, the narrative shifted entirely. Pogacar takes this huge lead, but Kus still made time for the media. Where, look, Jonas Vingegaard, I can understand why you wouldn't want to talk to the media, but he didn't, and Kus, was there to do that, and yeah, so good on the Americans for being media friendly, even if we are no longer battling for the top 10. I feel like that's about it from this second week, where like we said on the Houtecamp, Pogacar just, stormed into an almost unassailable now race lead. But we did see on stage 14 that even Pogacar can't win everything. And that gives you that little glimmer of hope that maybe these coming days Visma will try again.
They're definitely going to try again, right?
They're going to try.
Vingegaard is no intention of coddling his 3-minute, whatever it is, gap over Lipowitz for the rest of this race. I mean, he has, in fact, it's kind of nice that he has a little bit of a cushion there because he can take more chances to try and cut some time out of Pogacar.
Yeah, and we saw today he will try. And maybe one of these days it'll work. I mean, at least today, Pogacar didn't leave him behind by 2 minutes. And as funny as that is, that's a big deal. Like after the last two stages, it's okay. Vingegaard maybe had a bad day on stage 12, but they looked pretty evenly matched today. And even in the TT, it wasn't a huge gap. So maybe I'm trying to make something out of this, so that we still have reasons to keep watching. Cafe Rider points out, of course, that Pogacar's got revenge tour reasons to destroy everybody on some climbs that are coming. So maybe that will happen. We'll see. We'll be back to talk about it.
Maybe he'll get stuck behind a moto and crash into the back of the moto, break his bike, be unable to get support, and he'll have to get off and run it Mont Ventoux until he gets a new bike.
He could run for a little while and still win the Tour de France right now.
Do we know? Does he do running? Does anyone follow him on Strava?
Let us know if you know this answer. I don't know that quite. I haven't seen much running from him. If
this could be the difference right here. This is what it could come down to. Foot race on Ventoux.
Please no running man. Yeah. Well, I think we can call it there. We'll have lots to talk about with some of those aforementioned really hard climbs coming up. Pogacar he has his huge gap, but again, he can't win everything. We even saw today he looked not invincible.
You can't win everything. He's still saying he wants to try and win everything.
Right.
So.
But that to me says that today on stage 14, maybe he was near his limit if he couldn't catch Arnsman. Right. We'll see more in the next coming days here. We'll have the whole race decided, and we'll be back on We Decided Friday, because the last two stages of the tour probably not going to have a big impact on the GC. So we're actually going to do the third and final How the Race Was Won for the Tour de France after the stage to La Plan 19. I mean, look, if something happens on stage 21 in Montmartre and they suddenly the GC is entirely changed, we'll do an emergency show probably.
Big green jersey points implications.
That's true.
Pogacar in the mix against Milan and Merlier on the Champs-Élysées.
I'm hoping.
He would do it.
A great battle.
1,000% he would do it.
He wants to win everything. He said it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about all that coming up in just a few days.
Pogacar ran with the weight vest when he broke his wrist. So there we go.
There we go. Thank you, Timothy Flott. Again, if you are a member, well, first of all, you can hang out with us in this show. Second of all, you can provide your insight and have it sent out to the whole world, which is pretty cool. So head on over to Escape Collective. UAE.com and sign up. Also, check out all the cool coverage we've got going on this week of the upcoming final week of the Tour de France. And we will be back to talk about it in 6 days. So until then, I've been Dane Cash. Who are you? What was this?
I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that was the How the Race Was Won podcast.